Dr. Ryan, go ahead and tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, my background, I started in acupuncture and Oriental medicine back in the mid 90s. And during my times when running a clinic, we would do IVs. And this is where I learned a lot about absorption. Remember, when it comes to nutrition and health, it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb. What I saw in the industry was purity and potency was secondhand. And in order to get my patients better, we needed a higher dose. We needed it more often. And sometimes we even need transdermal or liposomal delivery systems in order to get those compounds to be effective. Well, coconut oil contains predominantly lauric acid. It also contains caprylic acid, capric acid, also some palmitic acid, stearic acid. And these medium chain fats, which is a family that ranges from C8 all the way to C14 when you're talking chemistry, these compounds are easily metabolized by the human body.
I'm Dan Metcalfe. Thank you for tuning into the Born SuperHuman podcast. I'm so proud of the guests and stories that we bring to you, and I know that you'll enjoy what we have ahead. Please like, subscribe, and follow. It really makes a huge difference in our ability to continue these conversations being brought to you. And if you feel the passion behind Born Superhuman, please share it with your friends and family and leave a comment. I read every one. Now, let's get on with the show. So welcome to Born Superhuman. I'm excited today, as I've already said, to have Dr. Ryan on with us. Now, Dr. Ryan has an incredible background of expertise in many different areas of health. In fact, his name is Dr. Wellness, and we'll get into that in a minute. But Dr. Ryan, go ahead and tell me a little bit about your background.
Sure, Dan. Great being with you. Well, my background, I started in acupuncture and Oriental medicine back in the mid 90s. I lived overseas in Sri Lanka and studied in many different modalities from Ayurveda, homeopathy, acupuncture. And so I got my PhD in complementary and Oriental medicine in 98, came here to the States, ran a clinic for about a decade, and then moved into formulations and creating dietary supplements, liquid formulations, cosmetics, transdermal delivery. I also specialize in liposomal delivery. And during my times when running a clinic, we would do IVs. And this is where I learned a lot about absorption. Remember, when it comes to nutrition and health, it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb. And so when it comes to vitamins and nutrition, getting the best out of them comes down to purity, potency, and delivery. And so that's what's so important.
So I want to jump in there and say, you talk about forms of delivery. Most people, I would say probably 95% of people have no idea. Like you talk about transdermal. Explain the different types of delivery that are with the products that we ingest.
Well, most products that you get have no delivery system at all. This is typically reserved for pharmaceutical type products, products that are hard to digest. Sadly, in the dietary supplement world, a lot of these compounds, which are beneficial, are lipophilic. They're fat soluble. They're very hard to absorb in our water soluble digestive type system. And so a lot of these compounds, resveratrol, turmeric, these types of compounds barely get absorbed at all. And this is where liposomal formulations come in. When you're working with alternative cancer treatments, we would do IVs of these particular compounds or minerals, antioxidants, because most unhealthy people have weak digestive systems, inefficient digestive systems, weak toxic livers. And so they can't get the best out of their oral vitamins or medications anyway. And this is why pharmaceuticals or, advanced nutraceuticals will use delivery systems. And so topically, this is transdermal. Internally, it can be liposomal. It can be encapsulated in some way. There's, a dozen really good delivery formats. And so, getting the most bang for your buck when I was in Sri Lanka and for traditional herbal medicine, you will literally get a pile or bowl of herbs that you need to cook down, make a tea, and drink. And when I came here to the States and I seen what was available, even the physician formulas, they would literally give you 2 capsules or 3 capsules. This is the dose. And I knew because I would actually pick the herbs in the jungle when doing the formulation. I knew I needed 8 or 10 capsules. And this is what got me into formulations for physician-based formulations. In about 2003, that's when I started dietary supplement formulations and piggyback that off of Oriental medicine, knowledge that I had. And what I saw in the industry was purity and potency was secondhand. And in order to get my patients better, we needed a higher dose. We needed it more often. And sometimes we even need transdermal or liposomal delivery systems in order to get those compounds to be effective. And so
Yeah, it's fascinating because I just came back from the Optimal Health Summit. I just came back from the Optimal Health Summit out in Las Vegas this last weekend, and looking at how important it is for absorption. For example, I learned that anything you put on your skin can be absorbed into your bloodstream within 26 seconds. So the quality of what we're doing is so necessary to have purity or the highest quality possible so that the body's natural function can actually function. So this is how I got in contact with you. Monolaurin. I've had some gut health issues and I heard about Lauricidin. So I started doing some research into Monolaurin, which was the original founder. And I know you're an expert at this. And it's a supplement, something that we can take both transdermal on the skin and also ingestible that has incredible effects from the studies that I've gone back and studied. Now, tell me about Monolaurin, and I believe it was Dr. Jon Kabara who really discovered or put it into a formulated system that you now are one of the top experts in the world on. So tell me a little bit about Monolaurin.
well, monolaurin is a very interesting compound that Dr. Jon Kabara discovered in the late 60s. And he actually discovered it in human breast milk. He wondered, why is breast milk somewhat sterile? Why can you leave it out for a day or so? And it's somewhat bacteriostatic. And so he analyzed it. Dr. Kabara was the head lipid chemist for 3M. You know that big chemical company, 3M?
Sure.
He was their lead lipid chemist. So he analyzed this and he found that the fats that typically come in a triglyceride form were somehow in this single glyceride form called a monofatty acid. And in the breast milk, there was actually monofatty acids of laurate, prelate, and caprate. And he found when they analyzed this that these fatty acids, because they were so small and had an affinity for the lipid coatings of specifically viruses and bacteria. The viruses and bacteria have this viral envelope or this lipid coating, and this fatty acid can attach to that viral envelope and penetrate through the surrounding cell and lyse it, and the virus dies, the bacteria dies. And so this spurred hundreds of research papers. There's been many patents over the years. And Lauricidin was Dr. Kabara's original discovery. Monolaurin is a compound. However, it comes in many grades. And this is back to this purity and potency. And Dr. Kabara patented the very special process to make it in this certain way that he discovered in breast milk, and he called it Lauricidin. And it's different than traditional monolaurins out on the market. And Lauricidin is an amazing product. And I am very honored to work with the Kabara family and the Lauricidin company. They have been ahead of their time for many years, and Lauricidin is just an amazing compound. I can tell you more about it.
Yeah, so Lauricidin, monolaurin, comes from lauric acid or has the effect from lauric acid and the power that it has within our own bodies. Tell me, go back to the basics of go back to the basics of lauric acid and what the effect is. Why does the body even need it?
Well, coconut oil contains predominantly lauric acid. It also contains caprylic acid, capric acid, also some palmitic acid, stearic acid. And these medium chain fats, which is a family that ranges from C8 all the way to C14 when you're talking chemistry, these compounds are easily metabolized by the human body. They're used for energy, they're used for cellular makeup. However, when we eat coconut oil, it comes in a triglyceride form, and our bodies utilize these fats for energy. However, there's a small conversion that happens in the human body, especially when a woman is pregnant, and this lauric acid actually gets converted to a single bound glycerol lauric acid compound, which we call monolaurate. And what they have found is that this compound has bacteriostatic, antimicrobial, antiviral properties, and our bodies actually use this as for our immune system defense. And so there's many benefits to coconut oil, and our bodies actually, Dr. Kabara discovered that you and me right now, Dan, when we eat coconut oil, we'll actually make a small conversion of that triglyceride lauric acid into a monoglyceride lauric acid. However, when a woman gets pregnant, that 3% conversion goes to 10% and gets stored in the breast milk. And babies don't have an immune system, they have a developing immune system. And this actually acts as a defense for the developing baby and immune system to keep them healthy. And just about every doctor will tell you a breastfed baby gets sick less, has less problems, less issues. And there's a lot going on in human breast milk. And that's where Dr. Kabara originally discovered it. Then, because he was a lipid engineer, he was able to take glycerin and lauric acid extracted from coconut oil and make this super potent compound called lauric acid. It's almost impossible, Dan, to eat or drink enough coconut oil to get what a single dose of lauricidin would give you. Now, lauricidin is a very special compound, has a very high purity, much different than traditional monolaurins on the market. And so this is why I recommend and support lauricidin, because it truly is the best monolaurin in the market.
So let me ask you this. Breast milk that contains monolaurin is obviously so good for the immune system, but women only develop it obviously when they're pregnant and through the pregnancy and then to feed the baby. And at some point, it then dissipates from the body. It's no longer needed and the child is feeding normally. But the effect on the immune system from the lauric acid, the monolaurin that's in the breast milk, it can help anybody of any age.
Well, see, lauricidin doesn't necessarily upregulate your immune system or tell your immune system. It has its own killing antimicrobial effect all on its own. It's a very unique compound, just like essential fatty acids have this anti-inflammatory effect. Well, this fatty acid has an antimicrobial effect. And when you eat it and take it, it goes and works. Whether you're a small child or an old person, it works regardless.
Well, that's really fascinating because as soon as we hear the word fats, we're taught in modern society to be scared of it. We've got to limit our fats. It's going to affect our internal workings. Is our body, are we going to get fatter from taking it? So explain a little bit more about the different types of fats because we've been trained to avoid them, get away because we're told it's unhealthy.
Well, there's been this years ago, a whole saturated fat issue, and most other oils do not have this saturation. They're called unsaturated fats, and those easily allow oxygen to bond to those receptors, where a saturated fat has the hydrogen taking up that bond and doesn't allow oxygen or oxidation to come in. And so saturated fats are very stable. Now, when you cook and fry a fat, you will oxidize it heard it. Lipid peroxides, which are fat oxidative compounds, are some of the most damaging. And so you want to make sure that the fats are stable and not oxidized. So fish oil, essential fatty acids, they should be fresh. They should be in a soft gel. When they're open to the air, those products can go bad very quickly. And so, like I said, my background is in manufacturing supplements and dietary supplements from liquids to powders to capsules to tablets. And so I've seen the ins and outs of manufacturing, and especially when it comes to essential fatty acids or fats in general, they should be eaten in their whole, raw, undenatured form. That gives you the best form of those lipids. As soon as they get processed, oxidized, they're 2 or 3 years old, that's where the problems of fat come from. And
So will this affect
this is a big topic. So
Yeah, no, and we got time to go through this, which is what's great. So as far as somebody that has, well, they're told by their doctor they have high cholesterol, because there's a lot of discussion right now, what is actually good or bad cholesterol levels? How would Lauricidin affect somebody that has, or they've been told they have high cholesterol?
Well, Lauricidin, first of all, you're taking a very small amount of fatty acids. We're talking just a few grams. So the impact of that fat affecting your cholesterol is like saying 2 or 3 peanuts are going to affect your cholesterol. So it's a very small amount of lipid at the end of the day. We're just talking, less than 10 grams of fat. Most meals would have way more than that.
So that comes down to what you were saying again about the quality of the product, and you're not wasting any space, wasting any money on something that's not going to be absorbed into your system. So that brings me, I had gut health issues. I decided to try Lauricidin, and they're these tiny little pellets. And I started off taking maybe a little bit more than I should, but I didn't have any negative effect from it. In other words, sometimes the body takes a little bit of time, depending on the health that it's in, to absorb it. And we're all different, but it's better to start a little slower and then increase the dose, where now I'm taking the full scoop, 3 times a day. But I noticed the change in my gut health almost immediately. Explain to me why that was, because I did read, the first study that I read was in WebMD, which talks specifically about, Monolaurin and Lauricidin specifically. Tell me what's happening, because I see the effects, but I don't understand them completely.
Well, a lot of us have heard of candida. We've heard of, a high sugar diet leads to infections that can grow. Lauricidin, once again, it has this antimicrobial, anti-yeast effect. And just because men have gut, we're not the only people that can have candida growth in our body and overgrowth. And sadly, with traditional environmental toxins and pollution, our good bacteria and our, healthy bowel flora is getting destroyed. And if we've ever taken antibiotics or eaten too much regular chicken, they actually found antibiotic residues in chicken meat. And in traditional milk products. And so our bowel flora gets beat up quite a bit. And this allows for dysbiosis, which is an unbalance of good to bad bacteria. And so when you take Lauricidin, it goes in and wipes out the bad bacteria and the yeast and the candida. And immediately you notice better gut health. A lot of the bad bacteria actually help increase gas and inflammation. And of course, bad bacteria are not trying to digest your food the same way that good bacteria do. So we have digestive issues and all of those things. So gut health is just one avenue that Lauricidin is good for. And so I'm glad that you got great results from it. It is very important to start low, because it does actually kill off, and your body needs to eliminate those bad bacteria or different microbes. And so it's good to start slow and just take a few weeks to slowly increase up to 1 scoop 3 times a day. And typically people handle it very well.
Yeah, it's funny because in the study I was reading and then doing a little bit more research before we jumped on, it says you want to swallow the little pellets. Don't
Hmm.
bite them because they'll taste kind of soapy. So
Hmm.
of course, what did I have to do? I had to go and bite one. I had to go and make sure that, I understand when we talk what's going on. Because I know that we have soaps include monolaurin. There's different stuff that it's used for because of the effect that it has on your skin. Um, why does it taste like soap when I know that it's coming from the inside of a coconut?
Well, the flavor of soap is lauric acid. Remember sodium lauryl sulfate, salt, lauric acid, sulfuric acid, sodium lauryl sulfate. That's how that compound is made. And originally, they would take sodium hydroxide and react it with coconut oil and make sodium cocoate. And this was the original soaps. And so lauric acid, which is a predominant fatty acid in coconut oil, close to 50% of it, well, that has the flavor of soap. So back when people said, hey, if you had a potty mouth and you needed to wash your mouth out with soap, you tasted that flavor, is because of the sodium lauryl sulfate or sodium lauryl cocoate or whatever, however you esterified it, creates that flavor. And so because lauricidin is purely glycerin and lauric acid, it has that soap flavor very strong. So we suggest do not chew it. If you swallow it with cold water, you won't notice any flavor at all. If you swallow it with some hot coffee, yeah, you may notice a little soapy flavor. But if you chew it, man, it'll stay around for a couple of minutes. So we don't suggest that. But the pellets are really tiny, very easy to swallow. Even small children, old people, they can all swallow it very easily, much easier than capsules.
Oh yeah, no, they're so small. And the good thing is I've been taking it for over a month now, and I never ever tasted any soap flavor until I had to go and do what I was told not to do, which if my mum's watching this, she'll understand because that's what I do. Always got to test things out. The effect though was almost immediate. As soon as I would say when I started off on the lowest doses just to start, I didn't notice, but as soon as I got to the full scoop,
Mhm.
I noticed a huge difference in my gut health. I wasn't feeling the same bloat. But going back and reading the another study that I read on Healthline, for example, when you start realizing the benefit doesn't sit in the gut, the benefit now is distributed through the body, and we know how important inflammation is in the impact of disease or negating the impact of a disease, even starting from the inflammation and passing the blood-brain barrier. What other effects have been shown through testing that monolaurin lauricidin can have on the body? Because again, antifungal is huge for me personally, as well as the antiviral.
Well, lauricidin is not normally sold in stores. We sell to health practitioners, and lauricidin was created as a dietary supplement in 1998 by Dr. Kabara. He's the one who brought it onto the industry. And most naturopaths, functional medicine type doctors use it for their difficult patients. And when I was in clinic, when we had people that had multiple problems that required multiple medications, it typically was that they had many different problems going on in their body. It wasn't just lack of exercise or being overweight. There were many other things. And we've come to find out that they are infection based and overgrowth based. And so lauricidin is used to help bring down those viral loads, bring down those overgrowth loads. Keep in mind, when you have infections, that takes away from your body's energy, takes away from your body's ability to repair. And over time, if you're walking around with low-lying infections, such as Epstein-Barr, or even Lyme's disease, these infections will drag your body down so much that you can't function. And lauricidin has a unique ability to attach to the viral envelope of those microbes and help eliminate them out of the body. And this will immediately give you more energy. You'll have less inflammation because you have less infection. And so Lauricidin is not just a gut health product. It works on many different infections in the body, from bacteria to MRSA to gram-negative, gram-positive bacteria, viruses. So talk to your natural doctor, talk to your healthcare practitioner. You'll find that it's used quite extensively in these hard cases, and we get great results with it.
So people are taking it and they've seen great results in these hard cases. Can it also be used as preventative, or is this something that should only be taken when you begin to feel? And with that being said, what are the benefits of taking it every day for your just general health? Is it preventative as much as it is, rehabilitation wise?
Sure. Well, I personally don't have any ongoing infections. However, I use it as a prophylactic during the cold and flu season. Also, all of my children and my family do the same. And so Lauricidin is used to keep different viruses in check, different overgrowth in check. And if your own immune system can't get your body back to homeostasis, then Lauricidin is a good daily, regular use product to help bolster that. And so I personally use it a few months out of the year during this cold and flu season. And then if I ever get any cuts or wounds, then there's a topical version of Lauricidin that you can use that will kill MRSA, gram-negative, gram-positive bacteria very fast, and it's a natural-based product. So Lauricidin has, like I said, many uses. Dr. Kabara, its original use was as a topical treatment for mastitis in cattle. And so
How did that work? Tell me, that's fascinating.
yeah, well, like I said, he was the lead chemist for 3M. And so once they spent about $40 million of safety data research to find out how it worked, why it worked, they discovered that humans would even manufacture it on a regular basis when they eat the building blocks. So you need to eat palm oil, you need to eat coconut oil in its whole form. Fractionated coconut oil, or typically MCT oil, will not contain lauric acid because of the flavor. And so they fractionate it or filter it out through a distillation process. And so MCT oils are great for what those do: energy, fatty acids, what have you. But if you really want the lauric acid, you need to consume palm oil. Red palm oil is the best, and coconut.
Okay, so I got to stop you on that one because there's so much information coming out that we're in the time of AI, Google. It gives this so much conflicting information everywhere. And we've all gone through it, maybe not yourself, but something's going on. You go online and you will find what you want to hear. So if you think you're going to die, you'll find that you're going to die from it. If you find that you want to heal, you'll find ideologies on healing. But there's been a lot recently about palm oil and how bad it is for you. We're talking about in potato chips, in cookies, in food that aren't good for you anyway. Tell me a little bit about palm oil and red palm oil, and how does it go from being something we should be taking into something that's a disaster for our workings internally?
Well, you said the answer right there. Potato chips, fried, cooked food. You do not cook lipids in an oxygen environment. That's how they get oxidized. Oxidation means oxygen. Why does metal rust? Because oxygen affects it. It's called oxidation. And so red palm oil, coconut oil should always be raw. Now, you can heat them to a certain degree because they're saturated, and then they won't oxidize. But that's only 300 or 400 degrees, not 600, 700 to fry, some liquid. And so, cooked lipids, which create lipid peroxides, are some of the most dangerous free radicals your body can ingest. Almost all free radicals have a certain antioxidant that can basically balance it out or negate it. And so vitamin C is the mother antioxidant. It can help donate electrons throughout the antioxidant cascade. However, for lipids, you're only talking maybe vitamin E. You have some other small compounds that your bodies can make. Lipid peroxides are very tough. And so I do not suggest cooking fats, except unless they're saturated fats. And so most of these potato chips, they're mostly using soybean oil, corn oil. Very rarely would it be palm oil. Now, in the fatty acid supply chain that we have to look at for our food system, they will, when you take a palm nut and you process it, there's other fatty acids in there that you wouldn't necessarily use for cooking, or they'll crystallize and you want a liquid fat. And so fatty acids go through a lot of different processing. And so when I'm talking about consuming them for health, these are natural-based, uncooked, raw. As soon as you go into commercial food industry, it's all about cost, performance. Will it work in their machines? Will the product come out a certain way? And so a lot of fatty acids or a lot of oils are highly processed, and that leads to issues in our body.
Explain to people listening, break down what a lipid is.
Well, a lipid is a chemistry name for fat. And so within, coconut oil, there's probably 8 different lipids within it, not just lauric acid. And so there's unsaturated, saturated, polyunsaturated. Some fatty acids have longer chains that will crystallize and harden at room temperature. Other ones won't, and they'll stay liquid. And this is where that fractionated MCT oil comes in. Not that it's necessarily oxidized or bad, depending on how they processed it and what chemicals that they used. But for getting lauric acid for an immune function, which is different than an energy function or something like that, whole coconut oil and whole palm oil is where we get the best source of that lauric acid from. And that's what I consider healthy fats to eat from plants.
Sure.
I like animal fats as well, which I know is controversial, but animal fats are saturated fats, and they're actually stable fats.
So I used to race the Ironman, and I spent a lot of time at the swimming pool. And one of the things that I got was a fungal infection in my toe. And it was the hardest thing to get rid of. I tried so many different things. Since I started taking Lauricidin, I've noticed that my toenail has started growing back clear. But what I didn't realize was the infection, it doesn't stay on the toenail, it spreads into the body. And when you have a fungal infection, and you'll see doctors will give you these very, very heavy medications, these tablets that you're meant to take, that really attack your inside of your body. It's not about clearing out. There's a lot of negative effects. So I never took them. I always tried to go the natural way. I know there's a lot of people out there, and I was talking about it, and my own mother turned around and said, yeah, I got the same thing going on. And I got friends that came over, we go to the pool, and sure enough, their toenail, I can see it. How's Lauricidin actually making the difference when I've tried so many things without having to go the chemical world that I know is going to affect other parts of my body? What's going on?
Yeah, those antifungal drugs are very harmful for your liver and kidneys. Very, very harmful. And you can't take them for long periods of time. Now, if I had to guess, it was probably your big toe, right?
You got it.
Well, in Oriental medicine, that's your liver channel. And in Oriental medicine, when it comes to your toe, and it's not on the outside, it's underneath, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so this actually shows an internal growth of infections, if you will, And so what happens is when you take Lauricidin over time, because it's helping your body eliminate other infections, your own immune system now can tackle some of these other difficult infections. Dan, when you have chronic problems, you eventually build up a load on the body. And until you reduce this toxic load, your body will not perform better or overcome your issues. And so some people try to do it with fasting. Some people try to do it with nutrition. Sometimes you need to do all of the above, and you need to do it for long periods of time. Typically, most chronic diseases happen when you're 30, 40, 50 years old. It takes a long time for that to get embedded into the body. And don't you find it interesting that the toenail infections, not foot, like athlete foot infections, only affect one toe? It doesn't go to the other toes. Makes no sense, right?
Right.
Because it's not necessarily a fungal infection in the toe. It's your body showing you a symptom. And this is where Oriental medicine and Ayurveda have been studying the human body for thousands of years, and they've seen this pattern. And so I can look at your tongue, your eyes, take your pulse, and tell patterns of illness or wellness in your body. And it all comes from these systems of empirical knowledge, what they've seen done over and over and over again to get the certain result. And so liver gets beat up the first thing, not the first, but very easily in a traditional American or modern man, if you will. The pollutions all need to go through your liver and your lymphatic system. And so as your body gets healthier, your body can then work on other things. That's probably the easiest way to say it. Typically, if you have multiple infections going on, you only have so many troops there to fight the battle. And so your body sometimes can never overcome any of them. They can just keep them at bay. Like take herpes, for example. It turns into shingles later on in life. That's because the body can't keep that virus at bay, and it manifests into shingles later. And so why does your toenails get better? Because over time, other infections are gone in the body, and your body can tackle that issue that relates to liver in Oriental medicine. Now, Western medicine will go, no, you're a quack and a weirdo. It has nothing to do with your liver. But I'm sure if you got a biopsy, you would see how much stuff is in it, and fatty liver and this and that. And we can get all these things without being alcoholics. It doesn't have to. You don't have to. You can get liver problems from eating processed food for 30 years.
No, I'm sure, growing up in England, we didn't have the greatest diet. So although I think the food tastes amazing, everyone says, oh, yeah, the English cuisine is the worst. And we always had this, hearty food, hot food, and it was what we grew up on. It was great, but maybe not great for us. And the effect comes on later. But when you're talking about liver, obviously there's fatty liver, right? There's something that's, contaminating now our body and stopping us from functioning, can have a dramatic effect on our health. Will monolaurin and lauricidin help with the effect of a fatty liver, or is that only purely going to go down to diet and slow recovery?
Yeah, that's diet and slow recovery. Lauricidin monolaurin has a narrow, but when you have problems, it seems to work on many things that you want at that time, right? And so, like I said, unless you have active infections or some active problem, you don't have to, you shouldn't be taking it all the time, because that's not, you should eat coconut oil. You should do other healthy things. Wellness is not, it takes many things to achieve wellness and to maintain wellness. You can't just pop 2 pills and think you're going to do good, or just go, oh, I ride my bike every day and that works. It's like, typically when you talk to those people, they have other issues that aren't addressed. And so my experience has shown that there's multiple modalities that are needed to achieve health and wellness and overcome some of these chronic issues. Lauricidin is amazing for infections and overcoming some of these immune challenges that manifest as fatigue, that manifest as joint pain, that manifest as gut issues, that manifest as yellow toenails. And so all of these things boil down to looking at the body, understanding how to read it. And this is where Oriental medicine and Ayurveda excel above all other therapies to help truly look at the imbalances in the body. And then only consistency gets you the results. There's hardly any quick fixes. And that's, I could go on and on about that as well.
No, I think, again, when we start looking at longevity, I had a great interview with Kashif Khan from the DNA company that's on our Born Superhuman podcast as well, and talking about the telomeres. And often the key to longevity is not what you're adding, it's what you're eliminating, getting rid of. But just because you eliminate something doesn't mean to say the body is automatically going to revert back to its natural processes as quick as possible. And that's where it sounds like Lauricidin being added to your regimen will help the body support clearing out multiple different infections or diseases that are going on to let the natural immune system, as I said, we're born superhuman, we're born to heal. What's stopping it from happening? So having tried the Lauricidin and taking it internally, I saw also that you had the skin cream that was on there. I started using, I don't have the greatest skin. I know from doing my DNA testing that have a propensity to wrinkle faster than regular skin because of the way that my DNA is set up. And I had a little bit of a dryness on my face right here that I went and saw a dermatologist about. And they said it's just basal cells. There's nothing in there that's bad. They tried to burn them off. It wouldn't go away. And so I went and got the Lauricidin skin cream. I've never felt something so smooth, so creamy, but without being sticky. That, again, it sounds like I'm here doing a commercial. I'm not doing a commercial. I wouldn't do that. That's not who I am. But straight away, immediately, I noticed a softness coming back to my skin. Are the wrinkles going away? No, not much, but maybe over time it will help. But the hydration of the skin was incredible. And then I had my girlfriend use it because we're very careful of what we put on our skin because we know, again, the absorption rate into our bloodstream is we can kill ourselves from the outside in as well as from the inside out. We've seen it. How's something working so much to keep my skin so hydrated and feel so good?
Well, the Lauricidin products were formulated to really treat sensitive skin and infections. And so Lauricidin and those formulations, which I got to formulate, I formulated the Lauricidin Lauricare products. And I took the positioning from, as a natural doctor, to make it clean and to not put in propylene glycol and put in silicones and acrylates and polymers, which most of your skin products are full of. And those unnatural compounds, if you will, do nothing for the health of the skin. They may look and feel and touch a certain way, but there's no nutrition, there's no true absorption. Those molecules are very large and they sit just in what they call the horny layer of the skin, this kind of first dead layer of the skin. And Lauricidin has an ability to bind to lipophilic and hydrophilic compounds. Now, lipophilic means fat loving, and hydrophilic means water loving. This one compound can hold on to both molecules, which is very strange. And so this is one of the reasons why you're getting the hydration. Another reason is because we've been able to activate it to where it can become transdermal and actually soak in deeper. And we use sunflower oil, natural components, natural emulsifiers, not ethoxylated ingredients, which are oxidized lipids that people put on their face, back to putting it in your mouth or putting it on their face. And so all of that combination leads to, oh, wow, my skin feels great. Hey, it does this, does this. It's the kind of the stretching and the nutrition and the fitness makes me run better and faster. Well, it's all of those combinations that make your skin look better and feel better. Now, will it affect your wrinkles? I doubt it. That's coming from your internal body that needs its antioxidant load and its hydration level and its collagen rebuilding. So I make cosmetic products and skin products for years and years, and I know the limitations, and that's why most products don't work. So the Lauricidin products are made for people with sensitive skin. Keep in mind, we help people with, immune challenges, and skin is the largest organ in the body. And yes, you're right. We can absorb several things into the skin, good and bad. And so this is why the Lauricidin topical line is a clean formulation, and you get results that you typically don't get from other types of products. And I know you just used it as kind of like a skin cream and for dry skin. But if you had a MRSA infection, or some type of staph infection, the skin ointments and the lotion, hands down, will do log4 reduction of bacteria, gram-negative and gram-positive, in 20 minutes or less, which means, Dan, a 99.99 kill rate. That's called a log4 reduction, which is 100% elimination. And this product you can put on the skin 10 times a day and not irritate it at all. And so the Lauricidin skin ointment is amazing for any types of scratches, wounds, cuts. We're even seeing now that if you treat it very early on and keep the infection at bay, almost no scar develops.
Let me ask about staph infection, because I remember I had a young boy, Mason, who was on one of my soccer teams, and he had a really bad staph infection underneath his eye. Didn't know. They went in, they cut it open, they drained it out, put it back. It came out even bigger again. And as much as I'm not, proud to say it, Mr. Tough Guy Dan, I went in, I actually held his hand because his parents couldn't go in. And all because they were like freaking out about having the operation. So I went in to hold his hand. I almost passed out watching what was going on when they cut it and all the, liquid came out, and the poor kid, they couldn't put him to sleep for it. He's open, all this stuff. Horrible experience. If they had have used Lauricidin before, is there a chance, because I know there's never a guarantee, is there a chance that it would have helped clear it up?
Definitely, if we would got it early enough. And then we have a protocol, which is called our Lauricidin Plus protocol, where you take the product internally and externally use it. If you know you have an active infection, my goodness, you want to hit it from both sides. So just like you would take more vitamin C, you would take more of this to help you. Well, if you have an infection and it's a major one here, your skin is not isolated from the rest of your body. One major reason why your body can't heal it is because something else is going on. Now, bacterial infections can grow very rapidly. So sometimes you can have a perfectly healthy person and a skin infection. So not to count it out. But definitely, you get the Lauricidin on there early, quick. You wash it properly, dress your wound properly, and take immune supporting ingredients. You're going to have a much better chance than not. Drugging the body back to health does not work. Yes, you can suppress your body for a certain amount of time, for a few days, to maybe get over some hump, but long-term suppression never really works out. And sadly, most drug therapy takes that symptomatic approach. And so Lauricidin and natural therapies really try to help go to the cause of the problem, what's going on. And so I hope that little boy's better now and playing great soccer. And
No, he's doing great. He graduated, went on to be a chef and everything. So,
oh wow,
they were able to
wow.
save his eye before it went in so close to affecting
Mhm.
what was going on. He didn't end up with a scar, but
And
compared to,
to that point, Dan, infections are getting worse and worse and more prolific. MRSA is spreading more and more. Infections from the hospital are more and more. And our immune system seem to be having a harder time, or tradition, the modern society is having a harder time with infections. And this comes back to the health of the internal body and back to kind of working on the cause, not just the symptom.
I think some of that is if you look at the quality of where we're living now, and when I say where we're living, we're talking about our environment. Our environment contains obviously air quality, the products that we're putting into our body, the stress that we're living through, all obviously have oxidative stress, a major impact in really how we're able to handle it because things just seem to come on. We're becoming much more insular rather than community supported, which makes it even harder on the individual. But I was thinking it'd be fascinating going shopping with you and looking at products because every time you turn around and look at the ingredients on there, I think we go shopping, it'd be 6 hours before we buy one thing because you'll be explaining everything that's good and bad. What's going on with the industry now that is creating so much contamination, which creates inflammation that stops the immune system being able to help itself heal?
Sadly, Dan, it seems come down to economics. People try to make cheap products that they can sell to people that will only pay a certain price for it. And this is where fast food comes in, and junk food, and our society and our kind of our health culture does not promote wellness. They promote disease treatment. And over time, that will just leave you worse. And so when it comes to vitamin industry and cosmetic industry, they're highly diluted. A lot of people want to buy a bottle of vitamins for $20. Well, when you look at the economics, that means that the bottle has to cost less than $5. That means you're just getting a couple of dollars worth of stuff. And that's why I said when I came to America again from my studies, I saw I need to take 8 of these capsules. 2 of these aren't going to do anything. There's not enough of this herb or this compound to give an effect in a 200-pound 60-year-old lady who has digestive issues and liver issues and constipated and this and that. And so that's where the purity and potency comes down. And this is where Lauricidin uses that scoop, like you talked about. That's a 3-gram scoop. That's 6 capsules of product each scoop. And you need to take 3 scoops a day for active issues. That's 18 capsules a day, Dan. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Would you need to take? This is why Lauricidin is not in capsules. It's in this pellet form that you can take a scoop because it's easy for patient compliance. My mom wouldn't take 18 capsules. I can barely get her to take 6 or 8, but she'll take the scoop of stuff. It's easy to swallow. My wife doesn't like to swallow capsules at all, so she takes the pellets. My little kids, they don't swallow capsules, but they can swallow the pellets.
Yeah.
And so
It's
it's
like
about
digesting rice. I mean, in putting a mouthful of rice in your mouth and just swallowing, you can do that
mm,
psychologically. You look at it and see a little scoop in there. You go, "Oh, that looks like a lot," but when it goes in your mouth, it goes down so easy.
mhm.
So, are you noticing as well a change then in the way that companies now are processing their products, the way they're putting things together? Like you said, it's money, it's time, it's cost efficiency, it's mass production, lack of, I would say integrity in manufacturing. And we're seeing it not by going into the factories, but we're seeing it by the outcomes of people that are using the products. Talking to again, uh, Kashif with the CEO. Oh, what was it? Talking with Cash from the DNA company. If you look at the amount of skin cancer that's out there compared to the 60s and 70s, and we see the expansion. It's not just because we have more people, there's more. It's the quality of the sunblock and the products that are going onto our skin that may protect the skin from burning, but the contamination going into our skin is creating a lot of problems, blocking out the vitamin D, stopping our natural health from going on. Is that because again, do you feel the quality of the manufacturing and what they're adding to the products to make it a cheaper process is affecting what we can get? Or is it just a factor of lack of care?
Well, I think there's a couple of things going on. When you're talking about applying something to the skin, you don't want it to be sticky or greasy. And so modern chemistry has come up with many different compounds to help address this. Now, sadly, a lot of them are petroleum-based chemicals that soak in faster, absorb less. But also you have to remember shelf life stability. Can the bottle sit on the shelf, in varying degrees for a year at a time and still come out the same? And so this is where formulations and ingredient selection come into play to make different solutions. So in my manufacturing career, I've made products that have those petroleum products and propylene glycol, butylene glycol, and propanediol, and acrylates and silicones and dimethicone and cyclopentasiloxylane and all of those things. And those give a great feel and touch and smooth and velvety, but it doesn't do jack for your skin. But it looks good, smells good, has a certain color. Natural products aren't clear. They're kind of yellow or brown. And a lot of times, oh, that looks ugly. So modern chemistry, modern cosmetics, they refine these lipids and these waxes to where they're super clear and pure, and then they look white when they're, in the final formulation. And so it's kind of like the junk food of skincare products in a way. And really, the more natural you can get to the actual substance and put on your skin, the better you are for you. Now, most people should just put, fresh processed oils, lipids, what have you on their face, but it's going to look greasy and shiny and, maybe not have the cosmetic look and effect that you want. And so this has kind of driven this curve to the left with a lot of skin products, if you will. And so maybe have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had like an aha moment, if that's the right way to put it, because as you're talking about the changes that have gone and how we should be looking at natural, we tend to think of society now as learning more, we're more educated. People in the past didn't know what we know now. But it suddenly came to me, they didn't need to because they were doing the natural things. There wasn't the rush for, globalization of sales. There wasn't the how can I get a product quicker? That means I don't have to invest the time in cooking it. I'll put my hand up. I'm the last one that loves cooking. I'm a horrible chef. But because of the ease and quickness, we now a convenience. Whereas the older generations, they had everything natural being made right there and then. So we weren't having the contaminations. They didn't need to know. So part of this is re-educating because the environment's changed. Now we need to learn the education of what is actually good for us to have a quality of life.
Well, modern man is not just trying to survive here in this world. It's also to do other things, and that's where we've kind of grown away from the natural. And thank God that was their only option years ago, was the jojoba oil or the coconut oil. They didn't have this modern machinery to process and do these things. And when it comes to health and wellness, maybe not growing markets and growing capitalism, but when it comes to health and wellness, the natural is almost your best option. But when it comes to these other things, sure, I understand the modernization and the things that we need. And, look at this behind me. It's not all natural. It's all, man-made. And that's great. But then we have to realize, and, through corruption over the years, things that were bad for you maybe got swept under the rug, or it's not that bad for you. And To some degree, that they are correct, because if a person does every 4 months fasting and detoxing, and if a person does eat a whole food diet, and if a person does have family and community and even meditates and stretches and regularly exercises and gets out in the sun, I think a lot of this sun, word that you want to say comes from us not getting enough sun and not getting enough nutrition. And so, and if you look, people back in the 50s and 60s, they were outside. They weren't inside. They didn't work in cubicles. They all worked and they walked and they ate more whole, less processed food. And all of those things added up to the manifestation of diseases today. And so,
Absolutely. There's that saying that sticks in my head all the time. We sacrifice our health to gain our wealth, and then we spend our wealth trying to gain our health. And I
oh,
see that more and more these days because we believe that if we get wealthy, the world's our oyster. And yet you ask anybody in a hospital, in pain, or that's coming to the end of their life, money becomes completely irrelevant. Health is everything. And I think it's fascinating what you know, what you're willing to share here with us today to get people to be curious. It's not about having to turn around and say, I'm going to buy into everything, because we're buying into one thing, we'll buy into everything. But the curiosity that we can create to start investing into our health. It is longevity, it is quality of life. And we know money can come and go, but so can your health.
for sure, for sure. A saying that I would always say to people is the only true wealth is health. And I saw this so much when when I was 25 years old. I had a billionaire client who had ALS, and the guy he had had it for 16, 17 years. He's well known here in America, and he could only move his eye. And the man that was working with him literally had to spell out things with him blinking. And that man would have paid anything in the world to come back from that. And so, yes, sir, you're so correct. The things that we find of value, I think, Dan, as we get older, we start to learn what is valuable, what is important, and health and wellness is right up there with everything.
Which comes down to the education. If people, and you said it earlier on, if we wait 20, 30 years to address the issues that start to show themselves, so will we then cost potentially the next 10, 15 years trying to overcome them. But if we can tap into the younger generations, the 15-year-olds, to understand how they can avoid the decline by taking care today when you're supposedly in better health and should be, the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds that think they're drifting through life, lack of sleep, taking their caffeine supplements just to stay awake and function, partying, the alcohol, all the different things that come in, it will show itself one day. No one is exempt from the effects of neglect. So with Lauricidin, it's ageless, correct?
Yes. The only thing, little babies typically chew the pellets, so you can crack them open and put them in some applesauce. But everyone, the great thing about Lauricidin, it doesn't require chylomicrons to get digested. Your body actually, it bypasses the liver and absorbed through the lymphatic system. And so it's easily absorbed, digested, and then your kidneys create ketones and excrete it out as pure ketones. And so it's a fatty acid. It's not a whole oil, which contain many different long chain lipids within whole oils. And so kind of back to this cholesterol aspect or products that have fillers in it, Lauricidin is very pure and the body handles it very well. And it's very effective for what its use is. And so to achieve wellness, you should use many different modalities. And if something isn't working for you, don't continue. Try something different. Be open to learning and experiencing one thing I'll leave you with is that people should do a rotational diet, literally a rotational diet, where they don't eat the same thing every day. Don't have eggs, cheese, wheat, rice, potato every single day. And a lot of these, when you go to a restaurant, the food that comes to you, even if it wasn't supposed to have egg, it isn't an egg, it could still have eggs in it, and it could still have this and this in it. And the thing is our body builds up a resistance to something it's shown all the time, kind of like overtraining. If you ran too much, eventually you'd break down and not get those results. And so if you feed the body the same food every single day, your body will eventually build a resistance and can even become sensitive to it or so-called allergy to it. And then now your food is creating the inflammatory compounds, the oxidative stress, because your body's not only fighting it, it's also not absorbing it as well. And really going back to this natural thing that we talked about, the 60s, they didn't get tomatoes year around. They didn't have fruit flown from South America so we could have apples year around or oranges year around. We're supposed to have seasonal things because it falls into this, our body's not seeing it all the time and becoming resistant to it. And this is where the sugar, where they say insulin resistant. Well, because you have too many spikes in your bloodstream, eventually your body says, oh, I'm going to resist the insulin. Now the sugar gets even more. It doesn't come down. And then all these inflammatory compounds that come with high blood sugar. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
there's a few topics when it comes to getting over some issues and then trying not to being plagued by them. Once you get better, how do I not fall back into that same cycle? Well, it is about moderation, and that's hard to learn, but it's true.
no, it's fascinating. So I got a couple because we're not going to finish yet. I got a couple more things to
Okay.
go on. We talk about the lauric acid in breast milk and how that helps the baby to be able to build its immune system. Once it stops being breastfed and goes on to natural food, and when I say natural food, we're talking about onto formulas that have been, made to help growth. And then you mentioned about being able to break even a single pellet into a baby's, apple sauce and being able to take that. By adding that, is there a chance that the baby's immune system could continue to grow stronger as if it was getting breastfed when it first comes off of breastfeeding?
Well, breast milk has many more things than just monolaurin in it. And keep in mind, the mother has to eat those building blocks to get the lauric acid. So if her diet isn't from more natural foods and animal foods, she won't get those building blocks. And so some women will tell you that they have trouble making breast milk. And a lot of them, it's like, well, you don't eat any fatty acids. A lot of them have very low protein. So, not every woman immediately becomes a breast making factory. It's typically only healthy women. And typically healthy means you have a reservoir or a good diet of incoming compounds. Keep in mind, our human body is made from what we eat. Like, what else is it made from? What else does it run on? It runs off the energy you put in it. And based off of the type of energy and the type of fuel depends on if you perform at your best. And a lot of athletes are now learning that if they don't supplement with certain nutrients, they don't achieve the top performance. Maybe a child when they're 12 and they're just running off of pure cellular makeup. Yeah. But, a trained 20, 30-year-old athlete, they're not the same as what they were before. And so when it comes to helping small babies, if small babies have active infections, give Lauricidin. If they don't, let their immune system do what it should. I think God would have made mom have breast milk forever. Now, when I was in Sri Lanka, women would even breastfeed 2-year-old and sometimes 3-year-old kids. Not all the time, but they would go get off of the milk. They would have some solid food. And then maybe once a day or once every other day, they would have breast milk from the mom. And so, but once they get through that and their immune systems develop, then you actually kind of want the kid to get challenged with some infections so their immune system gets stronger. But some kids are born with herpes. Some kids are born with mass infections. Then, what are you going to do then?
You need the support. So a mother, whether she's making breast milk or not, would Lauricidin help, or is it really just come down to the diet?
Mom should eat coconut oil and palm oil and make her own Lauricidin. When she's in that breast milk mode, that's when she takes. A pregnant woman should not take Lauricidin.
Okay.
We do not want to stimulate the immune system when you are pregnant. You can abort. Once the baby's delivered, if mom needs Lauricidin, take Lauricidin. However, while she's pregnant, she can eat food, coconut oil, the building blocks, the medium chain fats that aren't filtered out, but all of it that are found in palm oil. Some raw milk will have the medium chain fats. Some raw grass-fed butter will have these medium chain fats, coconut oil. So there's other places to get these building blocks, but once again, it's about the building block. And lauric acid is the building block that has the most antiviral effect. And a lot of bacterial infections your body typically can overcome. Viral infections are with you practically your whole life. And this is the scenario with the herpes where, no, never had cold and sores, never had any issues. But once the guy gets 60, 70 and, leading a modern lifestyle, now that virus manifests and it turns into shingles. You ask anyone who's had shingles, that's the worst thing ever. So,
No, it's brilliant.
yeah.
And this is what I love. I love interviewing yourself and people like you because it's not about sales. That's what I love. It would have been easy to turn around and say, oh, anyone can take it. But you're like, no, pregnant women should not be taking this. They should be developing themselves. A salesman's going to turn around and go, oh, yeah, it's good for everybody. Or, they should try it. I love the fact that your intention, as you're known, Dr. Wellness, is about improving quality of life. So the last question I'm going to ask you, why, with all the experience you've got, why, with all the connections that you obviously had and that you're sought after to be able to come in and do the assembly to get the greatest product, why did you choose Lauricidin to settle that?
Well, I've been exposed to so many different modalities, all different types of anti-aging products. And when you learn about what Lauricidin does, its origin, how it works, there's nothing else out there that does what it does. And Lauricidin is the original. Dr. Kabara is the one who discovered it. He's the one who patented the process. The Medchem Lauricidin company still maintains the manufacturing facility. It's been almost 50 years. They maintain the integrity, and they don't sell you a little tiny canister. I mean, they give you 230 grams of the material for such an affordable price that you only need one canister a month, whether you're barely sick or crazy sick. And so Dr. Kabara, like most inventors, want their product to work. And he found that dosing and purity was the only thing that got the results. And that's my integrity. That's what that's when I came to America from Sri Lanka, and I was born in South Carolina. You can probably hear my accent. I look like a super young kid. It's in my early 20s. And if I didn't get results, people didn't believe me. They didn't come back. And I learned real quick what worked and what didn't. And Lauricidin works like any other product. Most of these products that you take, whether it's oregano oil, this herb or that oil, your body has to break it down and then try to tell your immune system to go do this or that. Lauricidin works totally opposite. Body doesn't have to break it down. It gets absorbed through the easiest lymphatic absorption pathway. Doesn't require lipase or chylomicrons to be activated. And then it actually goes and kills the virus or attaches to it and works on it. And this is why you need to take it multiple times a day because, Dan, some of these chronic infections and these viruses, they're not always in circulation. They like to hide out. And in order to get at those, you have to maintain constant blood levels. Lauricidin, because it is so pure, it's highly metabolized, very quick, within 6 to 8 hours, it's out of your body. It's not doing anything. There's no half-life. There's no carryover. If it's in your body working, good. If not, it's not doing anything. And so this is why you take it multiple times a day to maintain that level. And then you can go and have your blood viral levels tested and show and see it come down. Not only do you feel better and, hey, this went away and I can do this now, but the blood test will show it. And then people lower their dose to a maintenance dose that keeps it at bay. So we have a herpes protocol where you take the product for about 5 or 6 months. You put on the ointment on the lips or genitals where you need it. And then over time, hey, doc, I stopped having outbreaks. Good. Now we can lower your dose and you'll find what works for you. Some people it's half a scoop. Some people it's less and they can maintain it. And then they can have their blood work checked and tested and all of these things. And then now a canister can last you a couple of months. But if you don't have active infections, no need for you to take the product all the time. But if you get some sniffles or you're around a bunch of people who's coughing and hacking, you could catch something. And so that's what I do. I take it when I'm around people or when I travel. I also take it during this cold and flu season. And I also take other things too. I take colloidal silver and elderberry and colostrum and vitamin C and zinc, all of these things that are known to help me. Yeah. So, you want to, like I said, multiple modalities, not just one thing. I haven't found a silver bullet. However, Lauricidin is about the closest shotgun effect you can have.
Fantastic. I did have another couple of questions, and then I'll just edit them back into other areas. But when we have neurological impact, whether it's MS, Parkinson's, ataxia, even stroke survivors, is Lauricidin safe for them to take? And at the same time, will it have any benefits to help strengthen the system? I know it's not going to come in and cure the disease or what we're suffering with, but will it help?
Well, the great thing about Lauricidin, like I said, is when you eat the building blocks, your body naturally makes it. And so it's a bioidentical compound your body knows, sees, and realizes. Now, it doesn't affect any pharmaceuticals or drugs that you take. However, don't take it with the medication because it could improve their absorption. So best to take it, an hour before or after any type of medication, if you will. It's safe we haven't found, and like I said, we've been doing this for many, many decades. We haven't found a contraindication for that condition for taking this fatty acid compound.
One last question. I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of veterans from the military, incredible men and women who have served the country. And a lot of people I've come across have suffered from Agent Orange when they're out in Vietnam and how that's continued to wreak havoc and destroy their body. Is there a chance that Monolaurin could help the body? And I know you've talked about the building blocks and the strength. Is there any, have you had any veterans that have taken Monolaurin and had any, positive feedback?
Well, Dan, it really goes back to supporting the immune system. If the human body is toxic, regardless of what it's from, is the immune system going to work as good? No. And so all of those guys, not all of them, but most of those guys that have those issues also have other secondary infections that their body's trying to fight. They can have gut issues just like you. They can have, these other three-letter viruses that accumulate in us. And so Lauricidin's not going to directly attack Agent Orange or some type of heavy metal poisoning, but it will help the immune system fight off other infections. And then that person should take the proactive detox, fasting, cleansing. Almost every ancient culture has had some history or regular fasting, cleansing type of ritual that they do, whether it's a religious group or just their culture in general. There's always these times where, okay, we're not going to eat today, or we're just going to do this, or there's always been this space for it. And so, and then when you get into the healing aspects of some of those cultures, they'll go, oh yeah, you're going to go into a sweat lodge. You're not going to eat. And it's these types of fastings and cleansings. And so it's just all part of getting better. If you're going to change the oil in your car, you need to remove the old oil first, right?
Mm.
And so, proper elimination, going to the bathroom multiple times a day, not just once a day, drinking plenty of fluids, doing what we consider the basics. Most people don't even do the basics.
Sure.
And they wonder why they're unhealthy. And so for chronic conditions, you need to support the immune system. But you also need to do a few other things too.
Sure. There's never, like you said, there's no magic single bullet. Um, but I should stop talking because every time you say something, it comes up with another fascinating question in here. But when we talk about fasting, when we're fasting, I notice there is a very low caloric intake when you take monolaurin and lauricidin specifically. Um, is that considered breaking the fast taking? Is it something you should avoid when you're going on? I just finished a 72-hour fast and I didn't take it during that time to try and stay as, I'm taking my electrolytes, but I say, wait, what's the effect of taking or not taking it during a fast?
Well, a lot of long-term fasting turns into ketone production, right?
Yeah,
Your body runs on something, right? You're either running on reserves, which can actually hurt you. When you fast, you should rest. People shouldn't go to work. People shouldn't do a bunch of things. You should lay down. That's what a fast is for. And what's the original fast? Sleep. Why do they call it breakfast?
sure.
And so Lauricidin, because it's basically, purified fatty acid, it would not elicit any type of insulin or sugar response. Like I said, the liver doesn't even have to break it down or digest it. The lymphatic, it's already ready to go. It's already in its usable form. And then the body excretes it as ketones, just like your body's naturally running on those ketones. Unless you were trying to maintain some special, uh, you know, lipid profile, I wouldn't, I wouldn't suggest against it during the fast. I really, myself, I do light nutrition during fasting. And too long term of fasting with just water or something, I don't think that's a good thing. I know controversy is controversy, so
But that's
I
the beauty thing about Born Superhuman. We're here to get everyone's opinion because there is no one size fits all. Like you said, we've still got to be smart. If you throw yourself in and just follow like a lemming, you're going to go off of the cliff at some point because someone's going to give you the wrong information. And again, there is no um, restriction on information. Everybody can learn from everybody if we listen to where their experts at.
Mhm.
And so I
I think
appreciate your input. I think it's critical.
sure. And a lot of these techniques and modalities, they all have their place. Even surgery has its place. I
Sure.
mean, if your arm's cut off, don't come to me for acupuncture or herbs. Go to the surgeon first, and then maybe we'll talk later. So there's a time and place for everything. And when it comes to supporting your body for infections, Lauricidin is a go-to. Only gotten great results with it, and yeah, it's a really great product.
Well,
And
Dr. Ryan, thank you so much for sharing your time with me personally and with so many that will get to watch this. I just want to say I've experienced, Lauricidin. I felt the effects both externally and internally. And I can honestly say it's a product that I'm 100% confident I will continue to be using because I felt the natural effects, not a fake placebo, not something that's just, making me feel buzzy. All I noticed was the results. So thank you so much for your formulation. Thank you to your team. And I look forward to maybe getting you back on here again once I go through some more experiences, maybe in 6 months' time. And let's see where I've gone to. But thank you so much for your time and wishing you all the very best for the future as well.
thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure. Look forward to chatting to you again.
Thank you so much.